Hey everyone, it's Jack here, TalkNorwichCity. Welcome back to another Sunday reflection video. I've definitely cursed this series. I remember saying, I think it was after the Luton game, sitting down here on a Sunday and going, I love recording these. We've just won a couple of games. The feeling was really good around the place. I love sitting down and reflecting on wins and what's gone well. And I think since that point, I've not actually filmed one of these after a Norwich City win. The latest result, Sunderland 2, Norwich City 1, and I'm afraid more of the same really for Norwich City. Just incredibly frustrating. The Canaries putting themselves in front and then finding a way to lose the game. And I think I was thinking about this before kind of pressing the record button this morning and having watched the game and then rewatched the highlights and read and listened to people on various social media platforms and read the stuff at the Pink 'Un and listened to what people had to say on Canary Call and just trying to take in everything and trying to get a feeling of where we're at as a football club. And the biggest frustration for me at the moment is that I don't think there's a whole lot wrong. I really don't. I think we've got a good coach. I think we've got a crop of players. I think there's talent in there. I think for large parts of games we're playing really good football and yet we're finding ways to lose. And I was thinking, the 10 years or whatever I've been filming these videos on TNC, and we've gone through Alex Neil and we've gone through Daniel Farker and before that Paul Lambert, and I think back to the good sides and the sides that kind of won promotion, and they were always teams that could find ways to win, and they could find ways to win when they weren't performing that well, and you'd watch an away game. I remember one popping to my mind. I think we were away at Brentford under would have probably been Alex Neil, and we were really poor that night, and we just won. We just kept winning. We found ways to win. We defended resolutely. And we took our chances. It reminded me very much of Burnley last weekend. It reminded me very much of Sunderland this weekend. A team that I don't think either of them were particularly special. And I think Norwich were the better side for kind of large parts of the game. But found a way to win this, and will find ways to win future football matches. And that's why they are where they are and we're where we are. And look, Norwich are in really poor form. Really poor form. I think it's 2 wins in 13. Norwich dropped down to 13th in the table. We're below the likes of Sheffield Wednesday, Millwall, Bristol City, Swansea, Watford. I look at this division. We're only a point above QPR, and we were saying about how poor QPR were the other week. Well, they're now just a point behind us. And even the likes of Luton, Derby, Coventry, teams that have been described as being really poor outfits this season, we're not that far ahead of. And suddenly the gap between us and the top 6 looks, it's 9 points. It feels unachievable at this stage. I think Norwich have chucked away 22 points from winning positions this season. I think Connor Southwell said if it doesn't work this way, but if we hadn't have dropped those points from winning positions, Norwich would be second in the division. Even if we'd have picked up half of those points, we'd be comfortably in the top 6. It feels like this is a side that have kind of almost been cobbled together. It's the result of a few years of kind of short-term recruitment, short-term fixes, and under Dean Smith and David Wagner, we did that and we spent lots of money and we were lucky to have a Gabby Sara and a Johnny Rowe and those types in the squad that could kind of catapult us into the playoffs. We're without those now, so you lose a significant number of goals, and you've still got the remnants of those recruitment processes, and we've still got the remnants of Stuart Webber's latter recruitment and those players that have played under Dean Smith and David Wagner mixed in with this new era of youth and trying to adapt the way in which we play. And I think when we watch the wins against Hull and Watford and Plymouth at home, you see moments of what this can be, and against often lesser teams at Carrow Road we've been able to see that, and it makes you really excited because it feels like, well, if they can do it there, then why can't they replicate that away from home? And then you start to think, oh my goodness, if we can go on a run and if we can continue this style and if we can keep Sargent fit and if we can bring players in January, then you've got a real opportunity of top 6. And I think I've certainly kidded myself with that on a few occasions, and I don't apologise for that. I think it's a healthy thing to get excited about your football team, and It's the reason why we support Norwich City, right? And it's the reason why football fans support their football teams, is to get excited. And so don't apologise about getting optimistic. But it's become very apparent, and I think we're far enough into this campaign now to kind of make assessments. We've played 22 games, we're basically halfway through the season. This side is way short of where we need to be to get into the top 6, and that feels really disappointing to say, because these are capable players in a capable setup and have proven multiple times this season that they can blow teams away. And we might talk about it in a moment, but like over the festive period, I fully expect Norwich to win a couple of the home games. I think they'll go on a bit of a run. I think they're capable of doing that. But it's these away games to Sunderland, and you think back to Burnley at home. For 45 minutes in both of those fixtures, Norwich were the better side in the first half, and they took the lead. And a top 6 side would be able to find a way to just not lose that game, even if it's a draw against Burnley or Sunderland. They are 2 respectable results against 2 sides that will most definitely be in the top 6 this season. They would be fine results. And actually, what's happened is in this case against Sunderland, we've given away a really sloppy goal straight after the break, and then we've picked up a red card for Cordoba for 2 really stupid bookable offences, and then straight after that, Bellingham scores and it's game over. And look, Norwich could have had an equaliser. Ashley Barnes had a good opportunity. Norwich created chances. I think if you look at the expected goals, chance creation, Norwich were on a par with Sunderland. This was a very even game, but how often have we said this season, in these evenly matched games, Norwich aren't coming out with anything, and that's a concern for Johannes Hoff Thorup. That's a concern for these players. And I know that the buzzword of this season, and is a word that will frustrate many, is transition. But boy, does this feel like a transition. It feels you can see parts of where we're trying to get to. You can see spells of play. I thought that was so apparent against Burnley. I thought it was apparent in certain phases against Sunderland. You can see the kind of end goal. You're going, oh my goodness, they're so close, they're so close. And then there's moments of kind of utter stupidity thrown in as well. And that's individual errors. I think that's probably Johannes learning the tricks in the trade of the Championship. This is a steep learning curve for all involved. The pleasing thing for me, and the reason that I've not got too down and I've not got too upset about these types of results and where we are this season, is it does feel, and I know it's really difficult to kind of understand when you're losing games, but it does feel like we're still pushing in the right direction. And it does feel like we have an idea and we have a philosophy and we are trying to work towards that. Will that work long term? I don't know. I'm not a mind reader. I can't see into the distance. This might end spectacularly wrong. But I do believe that at least we're trying to go about things in the right way. That has worked on occasion. And I think that's all I can kind of ask for from my football club. A side that is operating in an incredibly difficult division to get out of. We have a way that we want to do things, and we are working towards that. And actually, what we've seen in recent seasons, when we've been a bit more flush with cash and we've still had parachute payments, is kind of short-term fixes, and that just isn't the right way to go about things in the modern game, especially when you're a club like Norwich, where you're not flush with cash at all times. So I feel like we're going things about the right way. I keep getting asked by people, do I think we're going to sign and spend loads of cash in January? And I think the answer to that is no, I don't think we will. I think we'll maybe sign a defensive midfielder, like Johannes said, that they were identifying. But I don't think we're going to go all out. And actually, I don't think it would be the right way to go about things. I think traditionally January has been an incredibly difficult month to sign players. You're either signing players for over the odds, or you're not signing very good players because there's a reason that clubs want to let them go halfway through the season. So I don't think it would be a financially responsible way to go about things, and I don't actually think we would find too much from it. We're still without Kenny McLean. We're still without Josh Sargent. They are 2 players we desperately need. I think there maybe is a discussion now around discipline issues in this side. A couple of red cards in recent weeks. We've been without our captain for 8 games. Josh Sargent, obviously not discipline related, but we've been without him for large spells of this season. So there's been parts of this season where it's felt unfortunate. The Sargent injury, the McLean decision by the FA. I think there's been a couple of refereeing decisions go against us in recent weeks, but I'm not going to sit here and blame that because Norwich just haven't been good enough. But ultimately, it does feel like they're just in a place now where whether it's naivety, whether it's the kind of the youthful element of this side and just not knowing how to close games out. Maybe that comes down to the head coach, and I'm sure that he will be looking at himself and trying to figure out what next and what he can do different to find ways to just take the lead and then not lose football matches. I think that's going to be really important, and that will be interesting. But I don't think we should be getting too down about this. This was always going to be a season that has huge upside if it went right, but ultimately I think most people thought that this side would finish mid-table, and that's exactly where we are at the moment. I think that there does have to be somewhat of a short-term uplift, because if we go another 13 games and only win 2 in that period, then you're suddenly kind of looking down rather than up. But I don't think it's going to get to that position. But regardless of whether you're trying to build for the future and you think that is the right thing to do, which I do completely appreciate that there is a degree of necessity around winning short term, and Norwich will be looking at their fixture list over the festive period. I think with hope, and Millwall at home, QPR at home, Luton away, Coventry at home. You should be picking up at least 3 wins out of 4 there, and then suddenly you're in a bit more of a comfortable position. So it does feel like a really important few weeks actually, and this festive period is always frantic. Norwich play again in 4 days. And it's important that they pick up results. I think if Norwich were to lose maybe the Millwall game or the QPR game, then certain questions will be asked. So there is an importance around these fixtures. And actually, I think the performances against Burnley and Sunderland, if replicated, we should have enough to get past both Millwall and QPR. But we need to find discipline. We need to find just some street sense, I think, and some ability to just close games out. I've not seen us really outplayed by a team this season. There was the first half against Borough, we were kind of poor, and they'd blown us away. But other than that, I can't really think of a side that Leeds we drew with, Sheffield United we drew with. We should have had something against Burnley. We should have had something against Sunderland. They are the top 4 sides in this division, and actually we've matched them pretty closely. It's the stuff around that's been really disappointing, and the reason we are where we are. So I'm still feeling upbeat. I still think there's hope, but unfortunately, and I'm going to keep saying this word, and it's not nice to hear. It is patience. I think it is time. We can start to maybe judge Johannes and this squad this time next year, when they've had a couple more transfer windows under their belt and a little bit more time to work the philosophy and start to work with players that they genuinely want to work with. That's when we can judge. And look, if we're still 13th this time next season, then maybe we can have serious discussions around where we're going as a football club. But at this moment, I think time is exactly what we need. And hopefully that can start to be the change. Let me know what you thought down in the comment section below, and how are you feeling about it all? Do you still have faith in Johannes? Do you have faith in this group of players, or are you like me trying to get to the summer transfer window, and then we can really start to judge things? Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you all again very soon. Bye bye.